This little ridge right here, this guy, that's the problem. What's going on, YouTube? This is That Dude Rides, and I'm your host, Brian. Today I'll be installing a Lectron carburetor on my GasGas XC300. As you could probably see by the rag and the lack of the gas tank and seat, I've gotten started without you, so why don't you come on over to the workbench and check out why. Key-in, PWK, 38mm. At least I think it's key-in. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, someone will correct me. Great little carb, actually. As you saw in my intro, though, I do have a little bit of a problem. In fact, the only problem I really have with this carb design is the top cap that's used on my model. I don't see this on the YZ and some of the KTM models that have the round circular cap and gasket. But that little ridge, I think that's why I sucked in some dirt into my pilot jet. So what happened in my last video, I took a good spill. And either dirt that got in when I adjusted my needle clip position last, or from the missing vent hose. We'll go over that in a sec. Somehow I got dirt in the carb and it made its way into the pilot jet when I dumped the bike. Did not want to run after that, and I had to limp it back to the truck through the slow stuff with just the choke on the handlebar. Once I got it to the the main jet, we were all good. But the pilot jet was completely clogged and was not giving me any fuel at low revs. So that was fun. So brought it home, took the tank off, pulled the carb. Let's get this thing cleaned up and see what's going on. But I've got stripped hardware everywhere. The carb's been used hard. I have reason to believe the previous owner of the bike did some hard enduro racing or some sort of racing. And the bike was just used hard. Maintained well, but nonetheless, I think the carb has been opened a lot. So some of the hardware needs to be serviced, including this. I've adjusted the needle clip twice, so this is partially my fault, but the 6mm bolt in here, completely stripped. And no amount of heat or creative garage ideas have allowed me to get the needle out of this. So instead of just buying a rebuild kit, instead of buying a new jet kit, which I've kind of wanted to do, instead of also buying a hardware kit, buying a new slide, also they're great stuff. Now I have seen a few kits on eBay that are really cheap that do include the slide, include a lot of the hardware and jets, but they're all direct shipments from China, and honestly, the key-in's a nice carb. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna get good quality hoses, good jet kit, good hardware, and that's gonna add up. I mean, I could be looking at close to a couple $100 from what I've seen. So, enter the Lectron. Now, I've been intrigued with Lectron and Smart Carb since I first heard about them. I like the idea that you don't have to adjust them every time you're going to dramatically change your riding conditions, whether it's weather, altitude, whatever it may be. I like it. They both have a lot of satisfied customers as of late. A lot of people on the forums seem to love their Smart Carbs and their Lectrons. There are people who started with one, moved to another. There are people that never liked either one. Nonetheless, I like the idea. I like the Lectron specifically because of this external adjuster for the power jet, as well as the fact that it doesn't have that little anti-tip, anti-leak valve that the Smart Carb has. I have heard quite a number of people complain that those can get stuck and cause some problems if you crash the bike. I do wonder if the carb needed to be serviced. Maybe it was getting a little dirty and gummy in there and it was about time that the owner take it out and clean it out anyways. Nonetheless, not something I really want to worry about on the trail. So the Lectron seems a little more simple to me once you get it set up. Trick is making sure you've got your metering rod set properly before you close it up and start using it. Otherwise, you're kind of like in the same position as the PWK, right? You're going to be opening the carb up to work on it. And in my case, it does require pulling the tank and possibly taking the carb off because you just can't spin these carbs in the GasGas. I've got a 2013. You just can't work on the carbs in the bike. So I decided to go Lectron. I do like the idea that Smart Carb doesn't have all the extra vent hoses. It's just one less thing to get in the way, one less thing that needs to be replaced eventually. But the idea of that tipping over valve getting stuck, it kind of turned me off. So I went with Lectron. We're going to go ahead and get this installed on the bike, and I will show you. It doesn't take much to remove the carb. Honestly, all I did was pull the handlebar choke off. It's got one Phillips screw on the handlebar. It's underneath this tape right now because I don't want to lose it. Keep all my parts. And then you remove the bands that hold the carb to its boots. Little guy goes to the motor. Big one goes to your intake boot, your airbox. So there's just a couple of bands. You loosen those up, and you may have to undo the subframe on your bike depending on how tight it is. In my case, I'm going to loosen the subframe so that I can install the Lectron. Lectron is a few millimeters deeper front to back. So to make sure I've got plenty of room and not completely destroy the boots, which are a little older, a little hard, but they're still in great shape, I'm going to keep those for now. Already checked the reeds and everything I could. Looked good inside the intake port. So we'll drop this in, get it set up, and take it to the trail this weekend. Test it out. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take the little hardware kit that I also purchased. I think that would be the one complaint I have with the Lectron, is that you have to purchase the extra parts kit for the metering rod adjustment. Don't need the Allen wrenches, but they came with it, so I'll use them. But this little metering rod adjustment tool, I think they probably should just include this and just charge everybody. I don't know, what do they charge, like $17 for the kit when you buy from them? Maybe instead of making it an option at $17, you just make all the carbs $10 more and include them. I don't know. I don't run a carburetor company, so don't ask me if that's the best idea. Wrong Allen wrench. So first up, we're going to remove these 3 Allen bolts at the top here so we can install the throttle cable into the carb. I'm going to do this off camera because this is just awful. Alright, 3 screws removed. We'll remove the top and the spring. I'm assuming you're supposed to come out of there. There we go. And what we'll do is feed this in. You can't even see what I'm doing. So I'm feeding my throttle cable into this housing. And since this doesn't have an adjuster, I'm just going to take this one all the way down. I will tighten it up in just a few, but for now, I'm just going to get it hand tight. And then I can take this little guy so I slid this all the way in. You want to make sure it's all the way back there. Slide the spring down. So let's do a quick check. Motor is that way, flat side of the metering rod's facing that way. I love it when something comes out of the box already set up. Gotta love it. And I also really do like that Lectron uses Allen head screws on these. Thank you. Something you're going to be using a lot, and you don't need a ton of torque. I just feel like Allens are a little bit better than Phillips. They just eventually go to crap. And that does not look good with the gasket. So we'll get a second screw in before we tighten anything down at all. And I'll be back in just a moment. We'll get to the bike. And this is where things are going to get interesting. So I'm going to actually pull the subframe up to make room to make this a clean, simple install down where the carb is. So that's going to involve loosening bolt here. You can see 2 more. These will be removed. Top one will just be loosened. I'm going to pull my air filter out. I'm also going to loosen the exhaust pipe, most likely remove that. Then I'll be able to tilt the subframe up, the entire unit, and just make a little bit of clearance to make the carb install easier. So not a whole lot to it. Just pull this plastic on the other side, that nut, slip the exhaust can off. 4 lower bolts, 2 on each side, loosen the upper, air filter out, we'll get going. And in the interest of saving time and video space, which I'm shy on right now, I'm just going to go ahead and jump to this, and we'll come back in a little bit when I start installing the carb. pipes off, and we have success. So as you see, I know the lighting sucks, but I can make a lot more room down here now. In fact, let's see how this works. First things first, throttle cable will come through here, just like it did before, and out of here, which might be out of your view. Nonetheless, if you follow the existing path of the previous carburetor, it's really hard to go wrong. So, let's see if this has bought me enough clearance to get this pig of a carb in there. Not easily. Actually get this in here first, I think. Then, yep, just like that. So what we want to do is push it into this forward boot first. Then we just gently bring our subframe back down. And it looks like we're all lined up. Tilt the carb this way just a hair for two reasons. Make clearance for my chain down here, as well as clearance for the throttle cable up here, because my gas tank is gigantic and comes down pretty far into this compartment. So I'm just going to rotate this over for now. Check all the way around. Looks like a good fit. Sure that doesn't need to be pushed anymore. I'm gonna go around to the other side, check everything out, make sure the fitment is right. Then I'm gonna refer to the manual, because as I read them, which I thought was cool that Lectron emailed me copies of all their manuals and tuning guides the day they shipped out my order. That was kind of cool. So I believe I read somewhere in there that one of these vent hoses actually needs to go up towards the air box. I'm gonna review that before I wrap it up. And put my swing arm back together. Let's turn this thing on. Ooh, Float looks like it may be a hair high. We will see. But not bad. All right, so I'll pull up on the not so handy choke. There we go. See if the choke's still up. Nope.